Page by Caitlin Gilbert. The little red and black polka-dotted creature slowly crawled onto my hand. Its glossy body shined in the sun, and its tiny feet tickled me. It seemed at peace with itself and the world around it. It seemed to live a simple, carefree life, I thought. If only my life could be the same. I let the ladybug crawl around a little bit more, and then I sat up and turned to my best friend. Anna seemed to know everything. She was kind of perfect like that. She had long golden blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and fair skin. She almost looked like a porcelain doll. She was healthy looking, not a toothpick, but not fat either, and she had a quiet laugh that she hid with her pale hands. Anna spoke in a subtle manner, but you always listened to what she had to say. You just need to weigh your options, she said softly. I mean, there's a lot you can do. Don't think of it as the end of the world. I wanted to tell her that she was finally wrong. It really was the end of the world. My world. I couldn't bring myself to tell her off, though. I knew she was right. We walked back to my little rusted red car that shook if you went above 60 kilometers an hour, which was as reliable as my boyfriend turned out to be. We began driving back to my house, where I would be forced to confront my parents. We stepped onto my front porch, which was all gray stone. I imagined that it was like what Alcatraz must have been like. I called out to my dad, who came rushing down and kissed me on the cheek. Next down the stairs came Ursula, who I liked to call my evil stepmother. My life was incredible before the evil stepmother came into the picture. My real mom and dad were perfectly happy with each other, and they gave me all the attention that I needed. They were amazing parents, and when my mom got lung cancer, Dad became even more devoted to her. I can't say it was easy. I felt like Dad and I struggled to breathe just as much as she did, but I knew that her struggles were not going to end. Her passing was like being hit by a brick wall. It was like the floor had fallen out from under us. I mean, I knew that it was coming, but no amount of time can prepare you for the loss of a family member. I took it pretty bad, as any other 12-year-old would, but Dad took it way worse. I know that he tried to stay strong for me. He really did, but his drinking got the best of him. Everyone knew that they could find him at the pub in our little town, shooting down shots as if they were iced tea on a hot August day. That's where he met Ursula. I remember him coming home wasted, yelling that he was in love and that his life was finally turning around. It was just 1 year after that night when the wedding bells rang and the doves flew. We had ordered traditional white doves, but there was a mishap and they sent grayish-black pigeons instead. The bride, who insisted on being dressed in black, was furious, but I thought that it was kind of funny and ironic. Years went by, and the evil stepmother and I learned to keep our distance from one another. Dad never really understood why I didn't adore his witch of a wife. However, I would assume that Snow White's father was blinded by love too. Anna and I asked them to sit on the couch in the living room, and even though Ursula, with her cold heart, insisted that she didn't have time for my teenage drama, Dad willingly took a seat. I slowly explained the whole story, finishing with the fact that as soon as Judas found out I was pregnant, he headed for the hills. Ursula tisk-tisked me and shook her head, while Dad just sat there, eyes as big as tennis balls, and fists that could have crushed a rock. He looked like a ghost. When the blood finally re-entered his face, he asked me what my plan was. He said that I could stay at home and that he would support me as much as he could. I thanked him, apologized, and turned to walk back out the door. As I turned, I could hear Ursula telling my father what a slut I was. As the 9 months went past, not much changed. Not much, that is, except for my growing belly and my horrid morning sickness. I would wake up almost every morning with what felt like a rock in my stomach, and I ended up throwing up for about 10 minutes before I could even stand. Dad did whatever he could to help out, and I really appreciated it. I loved that he didn't judge me. He just dealt with the situation at hand. I had looked into all the options for what to do with my baby. Abortion was out of the picture. I couldn't bring myself to killing the innocent creature that was forming inside me. I also considered adoption. I talked to a couple of the local agencies for some more information, but after much thought, I decided that it wasn't for me either. I couldn't just take the thought of handing the person I created to another family. I couldn't be apart from my future baby. The 9 months came and went, and I had a beautiful baby girl. Judas decided that he had better things to do than seeing his daughter's birth, but Anna was by my side the entire time. I decided to name the baby Paige because she was a new page in my life story. Paige was my heaven, but unfortunately, my hell was still living in the same house. Dad had left on a business trip and had left Ursula in charge. To her, it was an open invitation to make me miserable. She would throw Paige's bottles out and tell me that she thought they were garbage, and she would never fail to remind me how much of a disappointment I was to the family. Ha! Family. She treats her dog as more of a family member than me. Then, one night, she crossed the line. I had had a long day and just set Paige down for a nap. I was exhausted from being up with her all night, so I decided to take a cat nap myself. When I woke up, I looked over to Paige's crib and she was gone. I felt my heart fall to the floor as if I was on drop zone. I jumped up and ran out into the living room where Ursula was screaming for crying Paige to shut up because she couldn't hear Jersey Shore. From what I could see, even Snooky would be a better babysitter. I picked up Paige and soothed her until she stopped crying. After I put Paige back to sleep, I let Ursula have it for the first time in my life. I told her that she ruined my childhood and she corrupted my dad. I told her that I would never consider her to be my mother, and that if she ever put her hands on me or my baby again, then I would bring her to court. She cackled like the witch that she is, and responded with one snide comment that would ruin her. She proceeded to tell me that I was a dirty little tramp, and that my father should have had me abort my little terror, as she described her, when he had the chance. What she didn't know was that my dad had come home early and had been listening to our entire conversation from the front foyer. Dad came in, and without any hesitation his voice boomed as he told Ursula to leave his house and to never come back. He was red in the face as if his blood was boiling, and I could see his fists clenching again. When he spoke, it was like my chains were broken and I was finally free from her. It was like Dad had personally dropped the house on the Wicked Witch of the East. She pleaded to stay and claimed that she would change and that she didn't mean anything she had said. Dad didn't even speak. He simply went upstairs, put all of her things in a suitcase, took his Mercedes keys back from her, and loaded her bags into her lunchbox of a car. When she finally left, he went into my room and cradled Paige in his arms. "You really are my little miracle," he said. He passed her to me and said he'd start dinner. I called Anna not a minute later and told her what had happened. She came rushing over and gave me a big hug and told me that she was thrilled for me. After we were jumping around for a while, she became really quiet and seemed very distant. I asked her what was wrong, and she looked at me with those innocent blue eyes and said softly, "I'm pregnant." I put my arms around her and said, "Don't think of it as the end of the world." She sighed and put her face in her pale hands. I thought back to when I had just found out about my pregnancy and how I thought my world was going to end. I was wrong. Paige was the new beginning I desperately needed. The end.